Today the court was full. People whispered, papers shuffled, and the ceiling fan turned slowly above the judge's head. The case everyone came to hear was about to begin. Cynthia and Dave's divorce. Dave sat on one side of the courtroom, silent, his hands folded tightly. He was tall, dark-skinned, and once full of life, but now his face looked pale and tired. Across from him sat Cynthia, a beautiful woman in her early 30s with tired eyes and a calm but heavy heart. They had been married for 6 years. Once their home had been full of laughter, sweet whispers, and the smell of Sunday breakfast. But time had broken all that. Fights, anger, distance, and finally, the word divorce. The judge, a strict-looking man with glasses, cleared his throat. His deep voice filled the room. "Cynthia," he said slowly, "you are the one who asked for this divorce. Before I pronounce the judgment, do you have anything to say? Are you sure this is what you want?" Cynthia lowered her eyes. Her fingers trembled as she held her dress. For a moment, she didn't speak. The courtroom waited. Dave stared at her, his jaw tight. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, Cynthia said, "Your Honor, before you pronounce the divorce, I have one request." The judge leaned forward. "What request?" She took a deep breath. "I want one more night with my husband. Just one night, to sleep beside him, share the same bed, and look at him one last time before everything ends." The whole courtroom froze. You could hear the clock ticking on the wall. People exchanged glances in shock. "What?" the judge asked, frowning. "You want one more night with him? After filing for divorce?" Cynthia nodded. Her voice shook, but her eyes didn't waver. "Yes, Your Honor. Just one night. That's all I ask." The judge blinked, speechless for a moment. In all his years on the bench, he had never heard such a thing. He adjusted his glasses and stared at her again. "This is very unusual. Are you mocking this court?" Cynthia shook her head quickly. "No, sir. I am serious. I just want one last night with Dave." Dave's heart raced. His hands clenched. He looked at her sharply, confused and angry. What kind of game was she playing? The judge turned to him. "Dave, do you object?" Dave's voice came out cold and hard. "Greater than no, Your Honor. I don't object. If she wants one night, fine. After that, I'm done. I want this divorce." The judge sighed. "Very well. You are still legally married until the final papers are signed. If both of you agree to spend this one night together, I have no reason to forbid it." He hit the gavel gently. "Court adjourned till tomorrow morning." Immediately, whispers filled the courtroom. Cynthia's relatives stood up, angry and embarrassed. "Cynthia, are you out of your mind?" her sister hissed. "How can you shame us like this?" another relative said. But Cynthia said nothing. She just stared into the distance with calm eyes, as if she saw something nobody else could see. Outside the courthouse, Dave tried to walk away, but Cynthia stopped him. Her voice was calm, but there was something powerful behind it. "Dave, don't think this is over." The judge agreed. "You're still my husband until tomorrow, and tonight, we'll spend that night together." Dave frowned. "Cynthia, what's all this?" "We're divorcing tomorrow. Why drag it out?" She smiled faintly, a sad, mysterious smile. "You'll understand tonight. Just meet me where I'll send you the address." Dave shook his head, frustrated. "Fine. Whatever you want. After tonight, we go our separate ways." Later that evening, Dave received a text from Cynthia. "Hotel Sunrise, room 208. Be there by 8 p.m. He sighed deeply, feeling strange about it all, but still went. When he arrived, the hotel was quiet, small, old, with dim yellow lights. The corridor smelled faintly of perfume and dust. He knocked on the door. No answer. He pushed it gently. It was unlocked. The room was empty. The curtains were half drawn, and a soft breeze entered through the window. "Cynthia?" he called out. No reply. He sat on the edge of the bed, confused and restless. 10 minutes passed. Then the door creaked open, and there she was. Cynthia stepped in wearing a long white gown, like a wedding dress. Her hair was covered with a small veil. She looked fragile, yet graceful. For a second, Dave felt like he had gone back in time, to the day they got married. He stood up, shocked. "What is this, Cynthia? Why are you dressed like that?" She walked slowly toward him. "Because tonight," she said softly, "I want us to remember how it all began." Dave rubbed his face tiredly. "This is crazy. We're divorcing tomorrow and you're here dressed like a bride." Cynthia smiled sadly. "Exactly. Tomorrow we'll be strangers. But tonight, just for one night, I want to be your wife again." For a while, neither spoke. The room was silent except for the sound of the ceiling fan. Finally, Dave broke the silence. "Cynthia, what are you trying to do? You think spending one night together will fix everything? It won't. The damage is done." Tears welled in Cynthia's eyes, but she didn't look away. "I'm not trying to fix anything, Dave. I know it's over. I just want peace before the end. I want our last memory not to be anger or shouting, but something calm, something pure." Dave turned away, his jaw tight. "You don't understand. It's too late for peace." Cynthia took a step closer. "Please, Dave. Sit with me. Just talk to me tonight." Reluctantly, he sat. She sat beside him. For a long moment, they said nothing. Then Cynthia whispered, "Do you remember the first time you called me your queen?" Dave's eyes softened slightly. "It was the night after our wedding. I brought you suya, remember?" She smiled faintly. "Yes, you said you'd love me forever." He sighed. "Forever didn't last long, did it?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. "No, but at least it was real once silence fell again." The air grew heavier. After a long pause, Cynthia spoke again, her voice trembling. "Dave, I didn't ask for this night to make you change your mind. I just needed to see you one last time, to talk, to understand." Dave frowned. "Understand what?" She looked straight at him. "You've changed. The man I married isn't the man sitting in front of me now. You look tired, sick, and broken. What happened to you, Dave?" Dave's heart skipped. "Nothing happened." "Don't lie to me," she said gently. "I can see it in your eyes. Your body looks weak. Your face is pale. You're not fine. Please tell me the truth." He looked away, breathing hard. For a moment, he said nothing. Then, his voice cracked. "You really want to know?" Cynthia nodded, tears in her eyes. "Yes." Please, Dave's shoulders trembled. He took a deep breath, his voice barely steady. "The day you left me, everything inside me died. My family mocked me. My friends disappeared. They said I wasn't man enough to keep my wife. I stopped eating. I stopped sleeping. I stayed locked inside for weeks. One day I felt a sharp pain in my stomach. It was unbearable. I went to the hospital and that's when I heard it." He swallowed hard. "The doctor said I have blood cancer." Cynthia froze. The words hit her like thunder. What? Dave looked at her with watery eyes. He said it was too late. That my body was too weak, my blood infected. 6 months, maybe 7. That's all the time I have left. Cynthia's hand flew to her mouth. Her tears poured freely. "Oh my God! Dave, why didn't you tell me?" Dave looked down, his voice low. Because I didn't want you to suffer with me. I didn't want you to waste your life watching me die slowly. You're young, Cynthia. You deserve life, not pain. Cynthia sobbed quietly. Her hands shook. You pushed me away for this reason? You made me believe you didn't love me anymore, just to protect me? He nodded weakly. I thought it was the right thing to do. She cried harder. Dave, you fool! Do you think love runs away when sickness comes? You think I wanted a perfect man? I wanted you, the man I vowed to stand beside, in sickness and in health. Her voice cracked. If you had told me, I would never have left. Dave's eyes glistened. He reached out slowly and placed his hand on hers. Don't cry. What's done is done. You still have a future. Live it! Cynthia shook her head fiercely. No. My future is where you are. The next morning, the sun rose softly over the city. Cynthia and Dave stood again in the courtroom. The same judge sat before them, unaware of what had happened that night. Dave, he said, after yesterday's adjournment, have you changed your mind? Do you still want the divorce? Dave nodded firmly. Yes, Your Honor. I still want the divorce. The judge turned to Cynthia. And you, madam, what do you say? Everyone expected her to repeat her old decision. Her family even whispered, say yes. Don't embarrass us again. But Cynthia lifted her head slowly. Her face was pale but strong. Her voice was clear, loud enough for the whole court to hear. No, Your Honor. I don't want a divorce anymore. I want to stay with my husband. The room gasped. Even the judge looked stunned. You don't want a divorce? Why? Cynthia's eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed steady. Because my husband is sick. Very sick. He has blood cancer. The doctor said he may not live more than a few months. How can I leave him now? How can I walk away while he's fighting for his life? No, Your Honor. I'll stay with him. I'll take care of him. Till his last breath. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Dave's family lowered their eyes in shame. Cynthia's relatives were furious. Cynthia, don't be stupid! Her sister shouted. You'll waste your youth. He's dying. Cynthia turned to her, tears shining but her voice fierce. Better to spend my youth loving him than spend a lifetime regretting leaving him. Even the judge's eyes glistened. He stood slowly, his voice softer now. Cynthia, your decision is rare. Most people run away when love becomes hard. But you choose to stay. This court will honor that. He looked at Dave. Do you still wish to proceed with the divorce? Dave's lips trembled. He couldn't answer. His eyes were filled with tears. Cynthia stepped closer, took his hand, and said softly, You don't have to speak, Dave. I already know your heart. The judge signed the paper. Divorce denied. You remain husband and wife. The courtroom was silent, but the silence was heavy with emotion. Even those who once mocked them felt something deep that words couldn't describe. Cynthia turned to Dave. He tried to speak, but his voice failed. She touched his face gently and whispered, I will walk this road with you, my love. No matter how long or short it is. Dave's tears fell freely now. He held her hand tightly, the same hand he had once pushed away. As they walked out of the courtroom together, the crowd parted silently. Some cried, some shook their heads in disbelief. But one thing was clear. What they had just witnessed wasn't just a story of divorce. It was a story of love that refused to die even when death itself stood at the door. Outside the courthouse, the sun was bright, but their hearts were heavy. Cynthia helped Dave into the car. His body was weak, but her touch was strong. He looked at her quietly. "Cynthia, what have I done to deserve you?" She smiled through her tears. "You gave me love. Now it's my turn to give it back." They drove away slowly, toward a future uncertain, but together. Days turned into weeks. Mira kept her word. She moved back into Dave's home, the same house that once echoed with laughter and later drowned in silence. At first, everything felt strange. Dave, weak and quiet, avoided her gaze. He couldn't stand the thought of her seeing him like that, frail, tired and counting days. But Mira, she saw something different. Each morning she woke up early to make him breakfast, even when he barely ate. She washed his clothes, sat beside his bed, and read his favorite books aloud. Sometimes when Dave woke in the middle of the night sweating and coughing, she was always there, holding his hand, whispering softly, "Breathe, Dave. I'm here." And in those quiet nights, when the pain became too much, Dave would stare at her face, tired but still full of love, and whisper, "Why, Mira? Why are you still here? You deserve someone strong, not a dying man." She would smile sadly and answer, "Because love isn't only for the strong, Dave. Love is us for those who stay, even when strength fades." As the months passed, Dave's health worsened. His hair thinned, his body weakened. But his heart had never been fuller. One evening, as the golden sunset poured through the window, Mira sat beside him, her head resting on his shoulder. He could feel her tears fall silently. "Mira," he whispered weakly, "don't cry. I'm not afraid anymore. You've made me feel alive again." She looked at him through her tears. "I'm not crying because you're dying, Dave. I'm crying because you've taught me what love truly means." He smiled faintly. "Then promise me one thing." She nodded. "When I'm gone, don't wear black. Don't live in sorrow. Live for me. Continue what I couldn't finish. Build something beautiful. And remember, you were my peace." Mira broke down, sobbing into his chest. "Don't talk like that. You're not going anywhere." Dave smiled weakly. "Even if my body leaves, my love won't." 2 months later, in the early hours of a quiet Sunday, Dave took his last breath. Mira was holding his hand. He looked at her one last time and whispered, "Thank you for staying." And then, silence. The room froze. The clock ticked slowly, and Mira sat still, tears rolling down, her fingers clutching his lifeless hand. But she didn't scream. She didn't collapse. She kissed his forehead gently and said through her tears, "You didn't die, Dave. You just moved into my heart." Weeks later, everyone expected Mira to break down. But instead, she started something new. She opened a small foundation, the Dave Light Foundation, for cancer patients who had no family, no hope. She visited hospitals every week, sharing food, blankets, and smiles. Each time she helped someone, she felt Dave's presence, warm, quiet, proud. One afternoon, as she sat beside a sick child, the little boy asked, "Auntie Mira, why are you always smiling when your husband is in heaven?" She smiled softly and said, "Because my husband taught me that love doesn't end when life ends. It continues, through kindness." Years later, Mira grew older, but her light never faded. Every year on the day Dave died, she visited his grave, with flowers, not tears. She would sit there and talk softly, as if he could still hear her. "Dave, I did what you asked. I lived. I smiled. I helped others. You see, our love didn't die. It became a bridge to heal hearts. And when the wind blew gently across the grass, she felt it. His presence, his whisper, his peace." Moral of the story: True love is not about holding hands when life is easy. It's about holding hearts when everything falls apart. Sometimes the greatest form of love is not in staying forever, but in staying until the end. Mira and Dave taught us that real love doesn't die with the body. It lives on, in compassion, in kindness, and in every life touched by the courage to love selflessly. The end. Because real love never ends. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe for more interesting stories.